August 6th. And we are continuing with the third of the 4 protective meditations. And so far we have done the recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, the meditation on loving kindness. And now we come to the third protective meditation, which is called Asubha Bhavana, which means literally the meditation on the impure, unattractive, non-beautiful nature of the body. And this meditation was emphasized very strongly by the Buddha in the text that's sometimes called Mindfulness directed to the body. And the Buddha says that when one thing is developed and cultivated, unarisen, unwholesome qualities do not arise, and arisen, unwholesome qualities are abandoned. What is that one thing? Mindfulness directed to the body. Some other things, he says, when one thing is developed and cultivated, ignorance is abandoned, true knowledge arises, the conceit I am is abandoned, the underlying tendencies are abandoned, the fetters are abandoned. What is that one thing? Mindfulness directed to the body. And this mindfulness directed to the body leads to the penetration of numerous elements, the diversity of elements, the analytical knowledge of numerous elements, and so forth. And those who do not partake of the deathless, who do not partake of mindfulness directed to the body, and they partake of the deathless, who partake of mindfulness directed to the body. So you could see the great emphasis that the Buddha laid on this particular subject of meditation. And this meditation subject is recommended specifically for the purpose of overcoming sensual lust or sensual craving. We know that according to the analysis of the Four Noble Truths, the second noble truth, the noble truth of the cause or origin of suffering, is craving. And the Buddha explains that there are 3 kinds of craving. One is sensual craving, or the craving for sensual pleasures. The second is craving for existence. The third is craving for annihilation. And so, to eliminate craving for sensual pleasures, the direct antidote, the direct remedy, is the mindfulness directed to the body, or the perception of the unattractive, impure nature of the body. And this meditation can be practiced in a number of modes. Like if one focuses upon the unattractive or impure nature of the bodily parts, then it becomes the asubha sanya, the perception of impurity or unattractiveness, which is used to eliminate, to counteract, and to eliminate sensual lust. But the meditation on the 32 parts of the body can also be used as part of the meditation on the elements. And so if you look at the way the Buddha explains the meditation on the 4 elements, the first 20 parts of the body pertain to the earth element, the element of solidity, and the 12 liquid parts pertain to the water element. And then in addition, there are certain aspects of the body which belong to the fire element, other aspects that belong to the air or wind element. And what I found also is that the meditation on the parts of the body can also constitute a very direct way to gain insight into non-self, to selflessness or emptiness. Because we usually identify with the body, we take the body to be, I am what I am, this is me, this is mine, this is myself. But when one starts investigating the body in terms of its various constituents, then the question arises, where is the I am in all of this? It's just a collection of parts which are unified and functioning together to create this physical organism. But amongst all of these parts functioning together, there's nothing that you could home in on and say, that is I am. So when you look into the body as constituted of all of these parts, it appears to be just an assemblage which is empty of any kind of substantial self, any kind of solid, permanent, lasting, identifiable identity. Okay, so traditionally, based on the canonical texts, the practice of mindfulness on the parts of the body is explained as the contemplation of 32 parts, 32 organs and tissues and constituents of the body. The suttas actually mention 31 parts, but the later texts add the brain to give a more even number, 32. Okay, so these are the 32 parts of the body. You can see them listed here. So we go down the list, and then we'll look at some tables which I collected in order so that you could get familiar with these parts. Because in order for the meditation to be truly effective, one has to have at least some perception of the constituent parts of the body. Okay, so we have hairs of the head, hairs of the body, nails, including the fingernails and toenails, the teeth, and the skin. And these 5 constitute a group which are taught to novices on the occasion of their ordination. So when the person is ordained as a novice monk, part of the ordination ceremony is that his teacher will teach him the 5 parts of the body, these 5 parts of the body. And it's reported in the commentaries, that quite a number of people who took ordination, as soon as the 5 parts were taught to them, they achieved arhatship. So these are actually the 5 parts of the body. When you look at any person, what we see, if you really analyze what are you actually seeing perceptually, what we're seeing are these 5 parts. So I look at Ravi here. So what am I seeing? Hair of the heads. Then I see the eyebrows, hair of the body. He doesn't have a beard, but we could say, Chris, you have a beard, so I could see the body hairs. Then I see, well, I'm not focusing on the fingernails, but when I do so, then I see fingernails. And if he smiles, I'll see teeth. And then I see skin. And look around at your neighbors, and what are you actually seeing? You're just seeing those 5 parts when you really come right down to it. Okay, so now we go into the body, beneath the skin. Then we have muscles, and then what are called the sinews, which include tendons and ligaments. I assume everybody knows the difference between tendons and ligaments? Well, I have to confess, I didn't know the difference until a week ago. I was looking to find out, we always meditate sinews. So I was wondering, what are these sinews? Then I looked in the dictionary definition, and I said the word covers both tendons and ligaments. The tendons is the kind of tissue that binds the muscles to the bones. And the ligaments is a similar kind of tissue that binds the bones to each other.
Increase the font.
The font. I could increase magnification. This is better? Okay, so we have muscles, the sinews, which includes tendons and ligaments, then the bones and the bone marrow. So those will form a second group. Then we start moving to the internal organs themselves, kidneys, heart, liver, the diaphragm, spleen, and lungs. Those will form a third group. Then we come to the intestines, which, according to the explanation in the commentaries, includes both the small and large intestines, and then something called mesentery. Is there anybody who doesn't know what the mesentery is? Okay. I didn't know what it is until quite some time ago when I had to look it up. It's a kind of membranous tissue, say, in the abdomen, which binds the small intestines to the wall of the abdomen. We're going to go through the diagrams and then you'll see what the mesentery is. Okay, then comes the stomach, then the fecal matter, the matter which is accumulating, which will become feces or excrement, and then the brain. Okay, so those complete what are called the solid parts of the body. Then we come to the liquid parts. We have bile, which is stored in the gallbladder. The bile is a kind of liquid, the fluid which plays a role in digestion. Then phlegm, of course we know what phlegm is, particularly when we get a cold or a sore throat. Then there's pus, blood, sweat, and fat. So this forms the first liquid group. And then the last group, the second liquid group, we have tears, even when we're not crying, but there's a kind of liquid covering the eyeballs, which protects the eyeballs. And then what's called skin grease. It's a kind of very thin layer of oil which covers over the entire surface of the skin. Then there's saliva, and then snot. This is the mucus accumulated in the nostrils, the upper nostrils. And then there's the fluid of the joints. This is the kind of oily fluid between the joints which enable us to bend and to stretch the limbs. And when that fluid is drying up, then one gets arthritis. And then the last is urine. Okay, so that is the list of the 32 parts. And now let's go through some of these parts and try to get a clearer visual image of them. Okay, so hair of the heads, again, you can just look at your neighbor to see what the hair of the heads look like. And hair of the body, you can take, for men could take the whiskers, the beard, the hair under the armpits, hair on the chest, hair on the arms and legs, pubic hairs, and so on. Okay, to get an idea of the nails, you just look at your fingernails and toenails, and the teeth. Everybody sort of smile at your neighbor, big, or just grimace at your neighbor so you could see the teeth. And then the skin, of course, is obvious. Now let's go into the body. Okay, we have muscles. Okay, so here you get clear image of the muscles extending over the whole body, even from the face, top of the head, down through the arms, chest, belly, legs, right down to the feet, and in the back as well. So this is we always have to reflect that this is our body made up of muscles. Are people getting the image? Johnny? Johnny? The image is coming across? Okay, the sinews. Ah. Okay, so this is a tendon. You can see it's binding the muscle to the bone. And this is a ligament which connects two bones. And these are all over the body. Wherever there's, muscle connected to bones or bones to each other, there are tendons and ligaments. So both of these are comprised under the word sinew. The bones. Okay, so we see from the skull all the ways down the rib cage, arm bones, pelvis, leg bones, feet bones, front and back view. So as I'm going through each part, you should not just look at the image, but generate the thought, in this body there are bones like this. Okay, bone marrow, you just have to use your imagination. I don't have an image of it. Okay, now we go to the internal organs. I think this is a good image. Okay. Here we just have an outline of the kidneys. I will come back to another image which shows the kidneys more clearly. But now we go through the parts on the list. So after kidneys, we come to heart. See the heart here. Then the liver. Liver is a big organ here. And remember, each time, reflect back on your own body. In this body, there's kidneys, heart, liver. Then the diaphragm, which is a layer of thick muscular tissue separating the abdominal cavity from the chest and the abdominal cavity. Then the spleen is over here. And then the lungs. Okay, so that is the first group of internal organs. Okay, then we come to the intestines, which includes the colon or the large intestine here, and the small intestine. And then there is the stomach, and then the fecal matter, which accumulates in the large intestine until it's expelled through defecation. Okay, the parts we missed. The kidneys here. Since this is a back view, we have the left kidney here, the right kidney here. And the brain. I should have gone to the skin. Okay, so this is, when we look at the skin, at another person's skin, all we're seeing is the outer layer of the skin. But the skin is actually quite a very complex tissue, or it might even be considered an organ, since it contains several layers, actually 3 layers, the epidermis, the dermis, and then the subcutaneous tissue. There are arteries and veins running through the skin, nerves, hair and hair follicles, layer of fat, and then this image will give us a picture, a sort of composite image of the body. All of the organs enclosed within the cage of bones, and you see the bones are encompassed by the muscles. Okay, the one thing we've missed is the mesentery. This is the mesentery. You see, it's a fibrous membrane which holds the small intestines in place. Okay, so that takes us through the parts of the body that we could illustrate with diagrams. In addition to this are the 12 liquid parts, which you have to use just your familiarity with those parts when we do the meditation. Okay, now the way the meditation is done, as I said, the parts are divided up into groups, and the teachers in the lineage of meditation masters have taught the way of doing this meditation by first taking one group, going through the parts. Say the first group, one goes through parts from 1 to 5, then backwards from 5 back to 1, then forward again from 1 to 5, then into the next group, 6, 7, 8. In this case, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then from 9 back to 6, from 6 forward to 9, and then proceeding further from 10 to 15, then from 15 back to 10, then from 10 through 15 and onward to 16, and so forth. So in this way, one is going through this, each group of parts, forward, backward, forward, and on to the next group. And I'm going to, guide this meditation, since it's difficult initially to do on one's own. And I'm going to recite each part, and after I recite the name of each part, I'm just going to pause momentarily, and then you reflect that in this body there is such and such a part. The meditation on the body is always directed towards one's own body, not extending outward to others, not at this point universalizing, but it's imasmin yeva kaye, in this very body, in this body itself, there are such and such parts. If a part is unclear to you, don't worry about it. Just, sort of glide over that part and, try to imagine it as best you can. But if you can't get a clear image of it, just, let it go until we come to the next part. Okay, so let us start. Okay, so cross your legs, take a comfortable meditation posture. Okay, first let the mind settle down for a few rounds. Let the mind settle down by observing a few rounds of the in and out breathing. Okay, now first get a felt sense of the body as a whole. Feel the sections of the body from the head, the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the chest, the abdomen, the buttocks against the seat, the legs, and bring it all together into an awareness of the body as a whole. Now we begin focusing on the parts. There are in this body hairs of the head, hairs of the body, nails, fingernails and toenails, teeth, skin, 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 teeth, nails, body hairs, hairs of the head, hairs of the head, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, now we probe beneath the skin and we find muscles, muscles extending all the ways from the head, down the neck, through the whole torso, arms, midsection, legs. So muscles, sinews, tough, tough tissue, binding the muscles to the bones to each other. So muscles, sinews, bones, the entire skeleton. Bone marrow, the substance on the inside of the bones. Bone marrow, bones, sinews, muscles, muscles, sinews, bones, bone marrow, there are in this body kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, lungs, spleen, diaphragm, liver, heart, kidneys, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, there are in this body intestines, including both the large intestine and the small intestine. mesentery, the tough fibrous membrane that holds the small intestines in place. The stomach with its juices and its contents. The fecal matter, the remains from the food that hasn't been digested, being passed along the colon. And the brain. Brain, fecal matter, stomach, mesentery, intestines, intestines, mesentery, stomach, fecal matter, brains, okay, now we come to the fluids of the body. Fluids of the body. There are in this body bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, fat, sweat, blood, pus, phlegm, bile, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, okay, there are in this body tears, skin grease, saliva, snot, oil of the joints, urine, urine, oil of the joints, snot, saliva, skin grease, tears, tears, skin grease, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, urine, now bring all of these perceptions together into one sort of comprehensive, global perception of the body. So there are in this body these 32 constituents. Go back to the beginning. There are in this body hairs of the head, body hairs, nails, fingernails and toenails, teeth, skin, skin, teeth, nails, body hairs, hairs of the head, hairs of the head, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, there are in this body, beneath the skin, muscles, extending through the whole body, sinews, binding the muscles to the bones and the bones to each other. Bones, from the skull through the neck, the rib cage, arms, pelvis, leg bones, feet bones, bone marrow, the soft substance inside the bones, bone marrow, bones, sinews, muscles, muscles, sinews, bones, bone marrow, we go to the internal organs, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, lungs, spleen, diaphragm, liver, heart, kidneys, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, there are in this body intestines, large intestine, small intestine, mesentery, that fibrous membrane that holds the small intestines to the abdominal wall. So mesentery, stomach, fecal matter, and brain. Brain, fecal matter, stomach, mesentery, intestines, intestines, mesentery, stomach, fecal matter, brain, okay, now we move to the liquid parts of the fluids of the body. There are in this very body bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, fat, sweat, blood, pus, phlegm, bile, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, now move to the next group. Tears, grease of the skin, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, urine, urine, fluid of the joints, snot, saliva, skin grease, tears, tears, skin grease, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, urine, and again merge the perception of all of those 32 parts into the one perception of the body, contemplating this is the nature of this body. Now just come back to the comprehensive global awareness of the body, And just let the mind rest in that awareness for a few minutes, not focusing on particular parts or constituents, but just be aware of the body in the sitting position.